Yesterday on Locked on Blue Jackets, we talked about underrated wingers. Today, are we talking about overrated wingers? Maybe just rated wingers? We're talking about Patrik Laine today on Locked on Blue Jackets. Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets. You're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster. Thank you for making this your first listen or your first watch of the day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, and also, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before because BetOnline is where the game starts. And where this episode is starting is kind of a continuation from yesterday's episode. So we talked all about Oliver Bjorkstrand and kind of the impact that he had on the Blue Jackets and how he's a really good complementary piece to the star of the show, Patrik Laine. And today we are talking about the man himself. We're going to talk about how last season I think was disappointing for everyone, not least of all him. We're going to talk about how this season was really good for him, despite some personal troubles or difficulties, and also kind of what's next for Patrik Laine. What could that next contract look like, and who should he be paired with on that top line for the Blue Jackets? So I guess let's get started on kind of Patrik Laine. Had a I don't necessarily think it was a bad season. Okay, no, it was pretty dire last season. He had 21 points in 45 games. He missed a bunch of time due to injury. He was not ready to play when the trade happened, so it took him a little while to get into it. And then 10 goals in 45 games, I don't think is what anyone was expecting from Patrik Laine, least of all himself. And he rebounded this season in what I thought was a really, really strong performance. 56 points in 56 games. And the other thing as well, I think, that you need to think about when you're talking about Patrik Laine is weighing him up against, obviously, the player he was traded for. So we're going to look at Pierre-Luc Dubois' season in just a minute. Not in a lot of detail, just enough to kind of not necessarily pit them against each other, but just to look at how these two players have kind of thrived since the swap. But Patrik Laine, specifically, I am extremely, extremely happy with how this season went. He kind of signed a show-me contract in the off-season. I think he signed his qualifying offer of $7.5 million. Happy to go into this off-season without a contract, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. Again, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I think after a disappointing last season, and despite, I talked a little bit about the personal troubles, obviously he was injured, he missed a good chunk of, I think like November through December, we missed Patrik Laine, and also his father passed away suddenly in that time as well, so, for him to come back from that injury and come back from, losing his father to be a point-per-game player on this team, I think is super, super impressive. And honestly, I think he got better after he came back from injury. He had kind of a slow start, and then he came back, and he had like 18 points in 16 games, or something crazy. He really, really stepped up, and I don't know if it was a case of, well, I'm doing it for my dad, or if he just was, suddenly healthy for the first time in a little while, or what, but he really, really impressed when he came back, and I think some part of the problem with Patrik Laine this season, or to begin with anyway, he wasn't scoring at the beginning of the season, but he was getting assists. And, I've talked a little bit before about how people get twitchy when goal scorers aren't scoring goals, or when they are assisting on goals. And, I joked partially it's that Boone Jenner was stealing all of his power play goals, because I feel like the first 10 goals that Boone Jenner scored were all Patrik Laine shots that just kind of bounced in off Boone Jenner. And I am only, a little bit joking about that. But, it wasn't that he wasn't playing well, he just wasn't scoring goals, which, obviously that's what Patrik Laine is here for. And then, he came back from injury and just absolutely tore through the league. 26 goals in 56 games. On pace for, I think I talked about it yesterday, I still haven't done the math, on pace for about 35 goals, I think, which is still not quite the 44 goal performance that he had in his sophomore season, but I think that this is a player that Blue Jackets fans should be very, very excited about. And we're going to talk about why in just a minute. But first, I want to tell you about rockauto.com, because with the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's basically impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why would you endure pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning? Wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, chooses the brand that their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket, so why not just stay on the couch? You can save time and money when using rockauto.com, and they're a family business. They've been serving DIYers like us for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low no matter who you are. So if you are a do-it-yourselfer, the price is exactly the same as if you are a professional looking to fix somebody else's car. They've got everything from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even things like new carpet. If you can put it on or in your car or truck, rockauto.com probably stocks it. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and make sure you write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So, Patrik Laine, let's kind of double back a little bit and talk about Patrik Laine versus Pierre-Luc Dubois. Now, I still am not sad that he's gone. I still think that there was, I don't know that was a completely broken, beyond repair relationship between the Blue Jackets and Dubois, but it is what it is. He's not on the team anymore. Last season, again, I don't think he had as good of a season as people wanted him, especially him. He had 20 points in 41 games, only 8 goals, 12 assists. This season, much, much better. 81 games played, 28 goals, 32 assists, good for 60 points. Hilariously, he had 106 penalty minutes, which, yeah, that tracks for Dubois, but is also just very funny. He's just a very different player to Laine, and that's the thing. I don't know that you can compare these players one for one, because Dubois was a really, really solid second-line center for a Winnipeg Jets team that struggled this season, and I don't know that he would have been as successful on a team like the Blue Jackets. Conversely, I don't know that Patrik Laine could have been the guy in Winnipeg that he was allowed to be in Columbus. So I think, something potentially that this is potentially something that we'll have to talk to Harrison of Locked On Jets about, but I think both players are on teams that they need to be on, or teams that can benefit them the most. So, I was not expecting Pierre to have that many penalty minutes, but I was also surprised by how many goals he scored, because he's always been kind of all the way through, right the way through since his days in the queue. He's been more of a playmaker than a goal scorer. He has never... he had 27 goals in his sophomore season with the Blue Jackets. That was a career high, so he hit a career high in goals this season, and was 1 point off his career high in points. Patrik Laine, I think, would have blitzed straight past his career high of 70 points. 70 goals would be really something. But both players clearly thriving on their respective teams. But Patrik Laine, and this episode is about Patrik Laine, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. Patrik Laine is the kind of player that can really succeed in Columbus, and he is a player that is succeeding in Columbus, and honestly, I don't know that he's done, because that's the other thing, is that you get a lot of people saying, "Oh, he's a bust. He's not gonna amount to anything. He's not done anything with his career so far." But like, he scored 44 goals when he was, you know, 19, 20 years old. He's only 24 right now. He literally just turned 24 by near the end of the season. So like, this was his 23-year-old season, and he had almost 30 goals. And I don't know, man. He's clearly not done. There's still, and this is something we talked about a little bit yesterday with Bjorkstrand. Bjorkstrand still has an A game that he can hit. I think this is Laine's A game. I think he has an A plus game or an A plus plus game that he can still hit. And I think the poll kind of reflects that as well. I think almost everyone gave him an A or a B plus. Not many Bs, a couple of A pluses, but for the most part, I think he got A's across the board, which, yeah, that's probably what I would have given him as well. I don't think he's quite reached, again, like Bjorkstrand. It's weird. Everyone on the Blue Jackets, I feel like, had a career year this season, but I also feel like they still have more to give. Like, I don't feel like anyone on this team has hit their ceiling. So I'm super excited to see what Patrik Laine is going to do next, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute, because Patrik Laine needs a new contract. So we're going to take a look at how much money he could be making next season. That's coming up next on Locked On Blue Jackets. So Patrik Laine came into this season on a 1-year deal. He signed his qualifying offer for $7.5 million. And honestly, I think I'm happy with that. I think he did about $7.5 million worth of work, especially if you prorate it to the full season, which again, I'm not going to do because of math. He's likely to, well, no, he's not likely. I don't know. It's so tough to try and figure out what his next contract is going to look like. If I'm Jarmo Kekalainen, I want to sign him long term. He's talked a lot about how much he likes being in Columbus. Columbus clearly likes him as well. The team is good. We talked about this at the very end of the regular season. All of the exit interviews were about, wow, I love playing in Columbus. This is a really good team. This is a really good locker room. And Laine wants to be here. Blue Jackets want him here. It's just a case of meeting in the middle, I think. I don't necessarily know that it's going to be like, I don't know, 8 years, 10 million or whatever, but I feel like that's probably the starting point for Laine. Jarmo is not going to want to pay that, so they'll go back and forth. I could see a 10 million at maybe 5 or 6 years, which I wouldn't be upset about, I don't think. It would depend on a couple of things, including, how much other players are making. I don't think Laine is going to accept being lowballed, though. And that's the other thing, is that we have one more year of RFA to play with. They've talked about this before, an option for both of them is he signs his qualifying offer again. He is a UFA next off-season, but it would make me extremely, extremely twitchy if they signed the qualifying offer and he went into this next season as a pending UFA. I would not like that, and I would like it if that was not a thing. I think both sides seem happy enough to do, well, they say that they're happy enough to do that. I don't know how happy they really are. I think Kekalainen wants Laine locked up long term. They're just bickering over term and AAV, which is just how contracts work. If I had to take a final stab at what I think his next contract could look like, I think I might go, just round it out. Patrik Laine is going to be the highest paid player on this team next season, which means he's going to be making more than 9.5. That's my mildly hot take. I don't know if that's a hot take. I would say 10 million for 6 years is my guess, honestly. And I'd be pretty happy with that. I wouldn't be upset at that kind of contract. Maybe they'll surprise us. Maybe it'll be longer term. Maybe it'll be less AAV. But who knows? All I am certain of is that, or I'm not even certain of this because Kekalainen does this sometimes. I'm 90% sure that Patrik Laine will be a Blue Jacket next season. But never say never. Maybe something comes along. Who knows? And to just kind of wrap it all up a little bit, I guess. Patrik Laine is the kind of player that you can build a team around. And he's shown flashes of that this season. And I think this organization knows that. And I think the last couple of years have maybe shown Kekalainen that he can't play hardball with literally everyone. We've kind of seen it a little bit with Zach Werenski's contract extension, 9.583 recurring, which is, just a scooch more than Seth Jones is making. But after, the departure of Seth Jones, the departure of Dubois, Bobrovsky, Panarin, all of these players that could potentially have stayed. And I don't, again, we're not going to get into all of this of, Columbus has the X, Y, and Z problems, and that's why no one stays, because I think all four of those players had very different issues, and, it is what it is. There's no point crying over traded players. But I wonder if this is the player that Kekalainen looks at and is like, yes, this is the player that we build the next stage of this team around. And I think he would be a fool not to do that, honestly. I'm super excited to see what Patrik Laine does next season. I think everyone is excited to see what he does next season. And I'm gonna say it. I think he scores 40 goals next season. I think he does it. So that's kind of all I've got for you today. Tomorrow we'll have another player review. We will be looking at Cole Sillinger. That'll be exciting. We're going to be looking at Cole Sillinger next episode. So tomorrow, the poll will probably be up by the time this episode is up. So make sure you go over to Twitter and vote. That's at LO_Blue Jackets. Give me a follow over there. You can follow me over at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for making this your first listen of the day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms and also on YouTube. You're never going to have to get behind paywall for a Locked On product. So make sure you are hitting the like button, the subscribe button, the comment button, whatever floats your boat. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.